you very much. It's a great honor for me indeed to speak to all of you. I don't know why I was chosen to do it, probably because of this medal which was given to me by the Russian government. I don't see any other reason. Anyway, Om Agyan Timirandasya Yanam Jana Salakaya Tatsuri Nirupamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Manodishtam Statitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padam Radhakrishna Padam Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raguna Sarvaitam Savalutam Harijanam Sahitam Krishna Kritam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Shri Sankara Hare Krishna Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabham Sankapatare Vishram Vipa Sindhu Devata Patidanam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Swasyastu Vishwasya Kalak Prasidatam Dayantu Bhutani Shivam Mithodaya Manascha Badram Bhajata Tadoksha Jayaveshyatam No Matirapya Harituki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, aspiring candidates to become sannyasis. First of all, I would like to congratulate you that you are the first batch of candidates for sannyas who are getting this systematic education. And my whole life I was trying to institute the systematic education, knowing the value of this sort of education. Usually in ISKCON, people get a lot of education. They get something from here, something from there, but it's in most cases highly unsystematic. And if somebody wants to have some system, to bring some system into their knowledge, they have to endeavor, sometimes struggle, sometimes they have to come to Vrindavan for 3 months, or Mayapur, stay there for a long time, or do something extra, whereas in proper case, it should be very natural. From the very beginning, when devotee becomes a devotee, he should get what is appropriate to his status as a beginner, and then gradually get upgrades into his knowledge and into his practices. So it's a very beautiful initiative by the Sannyas committee headed by Prahladananda Maharaj, and I can only congratulate you and Prahladananda Maharaj for this initiative. Now, regarding the topic which was given to me by Braj Sundar Prabhu, he said to me, even though somehow or other in the schedule it was said differently, but he said that I should speak on Madhurya Kadambini. And he immediately said that I should bring you to the stage of Ruchi during our course of lectures or discussions, because you cannot be a sannyasi unless you reach the stage of Ruchi or taste. I completely agree with this thesis, that it's very difficult to remain a sannyasi, or to be a sannyasi, or function as a sannyasi, with all the temptations which are there in sannyas life and in our active preaching activities, when we always interact with opposite sex and quite closely in touch with the material energy. So it's definitely the only safe position for a sannyasi. To be sannyasi, you should reach the stage of Ruchi. But at the same time, stage of Ruchi is not an easy stage. So that's the main thesis which I'm supposed to prove during my seminar. I don't know if I will be able to prove it in a proper sense, because Madhurya Kadambini is such a big and deep book. Most probably I will not be able to come to the stage of Ruchi, but therefore from the very outset I'm saying that, be prepared. If you want to be sannyasi, you better reach the stage of Ruchi. But in the meantime, we should also talk, what does it mean to have Shraddha? What does it mean to have Sadhu Sangha? What does it mean to perform Bhajana Kriya properly? And what are the difficulties on every of these stages? So let's see how far we will be able to reach in our discussion. Because even the first chapter of Madhurya Kadambini probably would take all the time allocated for this seminar. First chapter is very important chapter, but I'll skip this chapter mostly, coming to more practical topics described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini. Anyway, let us begin with the Mangala Charana verse, which is important. If I understand this one verse, it more or less encapsulates what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wants to say to us in this book. And therefore, this verse is important to understand. I didn't want to skip it. Hridva prenava bhakti sasya vitate sanjivini svagama rambhe kamata paritudaha damani vistapagolasini duran me maru shakkinopi sarasi bhavan bhavaya bhuyat prabhuch Sri Chaitanya kripa nirankusumaha madhurya kadambini. He basically, in this invocatory verse, is invoking the auspiciousness, invoking the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but also describes in a metaphorical way the subject matter of this book. Therefore, Madhurya Kadambini, the name of the book, the title of the book, is also in this particular verse. This is a special kind of Mangala Charana, which is called Vastu Nirdeshatmika Mangala Charana, the Mangala Charana verse, which describes the subject matter of the book. And he's begging for the mercy, Sri Chaitanya Kripa Nirankusha, Madhurya kadambini. He's begging that the shower of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, completely unrestricted shower, nirankusha, with no restriction, or downpour of the mercy would come to him and to all of us, his readers. Madhurya kadambini means literally the cloud bank of sweetness. And he is comparing this book with the showers which are coming from the clouds, especially in the rainy season. Of course, in Vrindavan nowadays, rainy season is not very impressive at this moment of time, but probably before it was much more impressive. And he's comparing the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with this tropical shower when the water is downpouring, not just by drops like in other parts of the world, but by the rivers, literally. And therefore he says, Nirankusha, Sri Chaitanya Kripa Nirankusha Mahamadurya Kadambini. And he said first, Hridva Pre, he compares his own heart, or in this case, our heart as well, with the field. And this field is Kama Taparitu Daha Damani. It's Taparitu. Taparitu means summer. And Daha Damani, it became completely dry and actually burned, Daha Damani, by this intense sun, intense heat of the sun. Taparitu. Taparitu means very difficult season. Those who were in India during summer, especially in Vrindavan, knows it's Taparitu. It's the time for austerity. And what is this element which acts within us as this scorching heat of the sun? This element is kama, is lust. Therefore, I thought we should understand this verse very deeply in the beginning before we go further, because basically sannyas means the no lust. So he says that everyone has this problem of the lust, and this lust is burning from inside and making the field of our heart very hard and unproductive. And basically we can see that our heart becomes very dry, and we become very selfish, we become very cruel. For fulfillment of our own desires, we are ready to do anything, we are ready to inflict any pain to any living entity without any hesitation. And this is all just due to this desire, to this kama. Because kama is so strong, it basically burns our heart, and our heart becomes like the field, the dry field. It becomes really unproductive. Nothing can grow in this field. The heart, or chitta, human consciousness, is actually meant to produce beautiful fruits of love. And therefore he says that Nava Bhakti Shasya Vitate Sanjivani Swagama Rambe. If this shower of Lord Chaitanya's mercy will come down to our heart, then the heart will again re-establish this quality of producing beautiful flowers and plants of love. Because actually that's what we are meant for. The heart, the consciousness of living entity is supposed to be loving. And we know that these fruits are very tasty. When we experience some sort of love, even in this material world, it's very tasty. But the heart becomes very dry and therefore fruitless. But luckily, we know as soon as the rain comes, immediately the heart reestablishes its own fertility. So we can hope that if this rain, beautiful rain of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will come to our heart, then Sanjivani, it will enliven our heart. It will again make our heart fruitful and will immediately give this quality, return this quality to our heart. And Duran, me maru shakkinaha. He said, even though I am very far away from this mercy, because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was born a couple of centuries later than Lord Chaitanya. And what to speak about us, we were born even further away from Lord Chaitanya. But nevertheless, he says that even though I'm so far away from this mercy and I'm like a dry tree, completely dry and useless, fruitless tree in this desert. Shakkinaha. Shakkinaha means tree, and Maru means desert. In this desert, which is completely dry because of the scorching heat of Kama, lust, far away from Lord Chaitanya, still I hope, because when the rain comes, then the flow of this rain become like a river, and api sarasi bhavaya bhuyat. Prabhu Sri Chaitanya Kripa Nirankushu Maha Madhurya kadambini. So even though we're very far away, even though we can identify ourselves with this description of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, still we have the hope that Lord Chaitanya will manifest his mercy upon us, give us his mercy, and immediately we know that immediately when the rain comes, during this summer season, when the heat and the sun is very difficult and very hot, then immediately it cools down. Immediately. So the effect of Lord Chaitanya's mercy is like this. Immediately it cools down. When we come in contact with devotional service, with the sweetness, not the devotional service as such, but with the sweetness which permeates the devotional service given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Madhurya kadambini. It's not just an ordinary cloud, it's the cloud of nectar. And immediately when we come in touch, we feel the relief, immediately. But then we also know that when the first rain comes, and it's a hot summer, first rain comes, you feel the relief, but then when the rain stops, the heat becomes even more. So in the same way, sometimes devotees also experience it. They come in contact with Lord Chaitanya and his mercy, his movement, and they start practicing, they feel relief, but then after some time, again, the heat of lust becomes unbearable. Therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he metaphorically calls the chapters in this Madhurya Kadambini as showers of rain. And he knows that it's not enough to have just one shower. We need shower after shower after shower before really the heart will reestablish its original natural quality of softness and fruitfulness, productivity. And before it will bring this Nava Bhakti and these 9 kinds of Bhakti. It can be translated as 9 kinds of Bhakti according to the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam, Navavida Bhakti. It can be also translated as 9 stages of Bhakti. That gradually we will go through these 9 stages of Bhakti when the showers of mercy will come to our heart. And Nava also means new. Nava Bhakti Shasya Vitate. Something new, some new feelings, new emotions will come to our heart. Actually, material life is very tedious. It's the same thing as Prabhupada said, Punas Charvita Charvananam. It's chewing the chewed, something which already doesn't have any juice, and you chew it and chew it again and chew it again with desperate hope to get some drop of juice. But when bhakti comes, something special may come. If we get in touch with this showers of mercy of Lord Chaitanya, if we manage to get or to invoke this mercy upon us. Therefore, this invocation and this first verse of Madhurya Kadambini is very important. And the main point of this verse is actually on every stage of our spiritual development, the dynamic force behind it is mercy. It's not that by our own endeavor we will be able to turn a completely dry and useless heart into something different. We will never be able to do it ourselves. We completely depend on the mercy of the Supreme Lord or on the mercy of the devotees. So that's a very essential point, because only by the mercy of devotees we can get the sweetness, the shower of sweetness. What actually Lord Chaitanya did. Lord Chaitanya, he brought this understanding of Madhurya, of the Lord, which is very difficult to get. You cannot get the understanding of the sweetness of the Lord by your own endeavors, by reading the books, and by trying logically to understand the sweetness. The sweetness is sweetness because it's completely illogical. So Lord Chaitanya was experiencing this sweetness up to the highest extent, without any restrictions. And he was giving the same experience of sweetness to others. And ultimately, the problem of lust can be solved only by experiencing of the sweetness, Madhurya Kadambini, like Srila Prabhupada, he always quoted the verse from the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Raso Varjam Rasopyasya Param Drishtva Nivartate. Only if you experience the higher taste, you will be able to go through this Niraharasya, through this stage when you are fasting. Niraharasya basically means you're fasting from material enjoyments. Sannyas means you declare the fast. You're fasting from material enjoyment. And basically the whole devotional service means that we are restricting ourselves in terms of material enjoyment. So how we will be able to solve this problem when the taste for material enjoyment is there? Only by param drishtva, by seeing the Supreme or by experiencing the Supreme, by having the real experience of the Supreme, Supreme in his sweetest form. Srila Jiva Goswami in his Krama Sandarbha, in Laghu Vaishnava Toshani, his commentary to the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he explains that the sweetness is, what is sweetness? What is Madhurya? Madhurya is uncomparable sweetness which is within Lord's Rupa, his Guna, and his Lila. So Lord Chaitanya, that's what he did. He gave us access to the sweetness which is there in Lord's Rupa, in Lord's Lila, and in Lord's Guna. Because without him, we would be reading Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes this sweetness. And we would be like this fly, which is crawling over the glass jar with honey. We need some access, and Lord Chaitanya, that's what he did. And his followers, and first and foremost for all of us is Srila Prabhupada, they gave us this access to this sweetness. And by giving the access to the sweetness, they solved the problem of lust which we have. And that's what this prayer of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is all about. Let us try to get access to this mercy. Let us see how to get access to this mercy of Lord Chaitanya, which is freely available in one sense, but nevertheless, still, because we are so far away, we need to know the secret, how to invoke this mercy upon ourselves. So that's a little introduction to our seminar on this topic, very appropriate to the goal which was set to me. And the whole book is basically an explanation of two verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, famous verses which Srila Prabhupada quoted very often, verses which describe the gradual development of bhakti in stages. And these two verses, they describe the ladder of bhakti, ladder which ultimately is supposed to lead us into the spiritual world. If we step on the first step of this ladder and then go step by step, ultimately we will find ourselves in this spiritual world. It's like Srila Prabhupada, he often told the story that Ravana, it's actually from, not from Valmiki's Ramayana, but from, as far as I know, from Bengali version of Ramayana, that Ravana, and Prabhupada sometimes called Ravana as the first scientist. He wanted to create a ladder or staircase to the spiritual world, or to heavenly planets, not even to the spiritual world, to heavenly planets. But he was unsuccessful because you cannot do it by material means. Nevertheless, the staircase is there. And this staircase is explained by Srila Rupa Goswami in these two verses. And it's a very unusual explanation in one sense, or unusual concept, because from the very beginning, Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and especially Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this book, Madhurya Kadambini, establishes self-manifesting nature of bhakti. Bhakti is not sadhya, because usually what is sadhya? Sadhya is something created. If you're cooking something, then your sadhya is soup, and you take the ingredients, you put them together, you put them in the oven, you boil them, you put some spices, and here is sadhya. And sadhana is the process to assemble something new from the ingredients. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's very clearly said that sadhya kabunoi, Krishna prema nitya mukta sadhya kabunoi. Krishna prema is not sadhya. Prema, love of God, is not concoction. Concoction means it's not a creation. It's not sadhya. It's not something which you can cook, basically. In other words, you cannot really do anything to achieve this divine status of life, this divine consciousness. It doesn't depend on our own endeavors. Sadhu kabunoi. Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema, Sadhya kabunoi. Krishna Prema is Nitya Siddha. It's completely, it's not a part of this world. It exists, eternally exists in another realm. So, and therefore, from the first apparent look in these verses, there is a contradiction, because Vishwanath or Srila Rupa Goswami in these two verses, he describes the gradual stages which may be interpreted as the production of prema, love of God. But actually they are not producing prema. They're not, because prema is not result of sadhana. There is no causal relationship between sadhana and sadhya, prema, the result of sadhana. But nevertheless, sadhana is there. Bhakti sadhana is a very special case of sadhana. It's a sadhana which we are supposed to do, but at the same time, we cannot say that the sadhya is being achieved by this sadhana. Still, we have to do this sadhana. So the comparison to understand this is very simple. Let's say somebody is drowning, and he starts crying, "Help me! Help! Help! Help!" So crying is sadhana, but you cannot say that that you're being saved is a result of your crying. Yes, somebody can come and take you out, but somebody may not come and take you out. You may cry and cry and cry for a long time and still drown. So devotional service, it's like this. We may chant and chant and chant and still nobody comes. But nevertheless, we have to chant. We have to cry. We have to try to invoke the mercy of the Lord. And ultimately, completely understanding that it depends on the mercy. It doesn't depend on our own endeavor. It doesn't depend how loudly you cry or how pitifully you cry. It ultimately depends on the mercy of the Lord. But cry we should do. We should definitely do it. And we have to, from the very beginning, and that's the basically subject matter of the first chapter of Madhurya Kadambini, understand the independent nature of bhakti. So let's, and to understand this, let's have a look on these two verses, which Srila Rupa Goswami gives in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Adau Shraddha tatah sadhu sango tabhajana kriya tato nartha nivriti syat tato nishtaru chistataha asaktis tataha no. Adau Shraddha tatah sadhu sango tabhajana kriya tato nartha nivriti syat tato nishtaru chistataha something is wrong here. Anyway, tato bhavas tatah prema abhyudanchati sadakana mayam premnah pradurbhave bhavet kramaha. It's very interesting usually we know all the stages of bhakti which are being listed here, starting with Shraddha, those Shraddha, Tatah Sadhu Sangha, then Sadhu Sangha, Atha Bhajana Kriya, Tataha, after that, Anartha Nivriti, Syat, maybe it's in a potential mood in Sanskrit. It may happen, may not happen. Tataha Nishta, after that Nishta, then Ruchi, Tataha Sakti, then Bhava, and Tataha Prema, Abhyudanchati, Sadakana Mayam Primnah Pradurbhave Bhavet Kramaha. This is how, it's very important, this last line of these verses is very important. And this is how prema gradually, kramaha, manifests itself. Why it is so important, why I emphasize this last line of these verses, because actually every stage of spiritual development is actually prema. It's prema of some sort. It's the manifestation of the same prema. It's not anything else. Shraddha is not entirely different from prema. Sadhu Sangha is not entirely different from prema. Bhajana Kriya is not entirely different of prema. It's different stages of manifestation of prema. Sometimes people, they complain, where is love, where is love, where is love? But even if we have Shraddha, it means that we have a tiny particle of love already. What is Shraddha? Shraddha is an atom or tiny seed of love, but it's of the same nature, because the seed cannot produce anything of different nature. The seed must be of the same nature as the plant and as the fruits and flowers of this plant. Therefore, in all these stages, we experience prema from the very beginning. It is not full-blown prema. It may not solve all our problems immediately from the outset, but still, nevertheless, it has the same quality, and we can see it. And therefore, all these stages, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, describing these stages, he calls them showers of Madhurya, of nectar. The showers are coming, showers of this nectar are coming, washing away different problems which we have, and giving us some transcendental experience from the very beginning. And we all know, people who come in contact with Lord Chaitanya's movement, they have amazing experience from the very beginning. Especially, if you read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita and get the first-hand experience of his disciples who came in contact with him from a completely degraded background, from hippie background in America, New York, Lower East Side, or whatever, and then they came in contact with Prabhupada, and from the very beginning they started seeing amazing dreams, Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna himself with Arjuna, talking with each other, seeing amazing, having amazing experience. Why? Again, because very important thing, pradurbhave bhavet kramaha. This is how through sadhana, self-manifested prema manifests itself. In reciprocation with our endeavors, in reciprocation with our little meager endeavors to prepare ourselves to the downpour of mercy. And another very important point which we have to understand, that why sadhana is so necessary for us, because basically it prepares the heart, our consciousness, to this experience. The experience of prema is not an easy one. when we read the description of people who reach this very high stage of love of God, when they cry all the time, and they they do some strange things. Or Lord Chaitanya's ecstasies, when his body would become elongated with all his limbs of his body, or his body becomes completely shrunken as a tortoise. When we see this, we can understand it's very difficult to cope with these emotions of bhakti. And we're not used to. If all of a sudden Krishna would give us real bhakti, we would not be able to handle it. We would be completely confused and bewildered. Therefore, prema manifests itself in a very gradual manner, according to our endeavors and our readiness to experience this prema. So sadhana, in one sense, is preparing our consciousness, our chitta, to these experiences. And this is what we also have to understand while asking why Krishna doesn't give us all of a sudden everything, because he can give, but you will not be able to hold it. You will not be able to really keep it, and you will not be able to appreciate it. Why also prema comes in small installments? Because prema is something, it's a personal energy of the Lord. Bhakti is his Svarupa Shakti. It's not even his Svarupa Shakti, it's the essence of his Svarupa Shakti. It's the very essence of his own spiritual energy. And when you have something which is very valuable, it's the essence of his consciousness of the Lord. So when you have something valuable, you will never give something which you value so much to somebody who will not be able to appreciate it. If you have a very valuable painting of some old master, some Michelangelo or whoever, Raphael or Van Gogh or whatever, and then you cannot give it to some bum on the street or somebody, some passerby. You met some passerby and you said, by the way, I have this. Why don't they? You will give it only to somebody who will be able to appreciate it properly and keep it properly, and really be grateful that he got this gift. Therefore, Krishna gives us through his devotees in small installments the essence of his bhakti, the essence of his Svarupa Shakti, of his wonderful energy. And at every stage of our development, he sees whether we appreciate his gift or not. You know very well, probably you've been through these situations. You give somebody something which is dear to you, and then he neglects it, or he doesn't care, or he just gives it away or throws it away somewhere, and you feel pain. And therefore, next time you will not, be in a hurry to give to the same fool something which is dear to you. In the same way, Krishna gives us Shraddha, and then if we say, oh yeah, Shraddha, yeah, what is this? I need prema. You will never get it. But if you are capable of appreciating properly this gift of the Lord, and understand that this is the gift, that it's already the seed of prema is there, and you cherish this, and you really take care of this seed as something the most valuable which you have, then it will step by step manifest higher stages. And in every higher stage, you really have to not take it for granted. Our problem as Tao material living entities who are used to these material experiences, we take everything for granted. So therefore, we are not getting everything at once. We are getting everything in small installments. And prema, as Srila Rupa Goswami properly says, appears gradually. And the whole book is how this prema gradually appears within our heart and what is happening. And commending these two verses, both Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami wrote commentaries on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and the commentaries are very tiny and small. And both of them, they repeat the same thing, that what Srila Rupa Goswami explains in these two verses, Adau Shraddha Tatah Sadhu Sangha Tha Bhajana Kriya, is a usual path. It's not the only path of bhakti. There may be different paths in obtaining prema. Like Putana, she also obtained prema. And her own way, she had her own Putana sadhana, special kind of sadhana. Not very elaborate. She just wanted to kill Krishna and put some disguise and came to Raj. But that's also something. But let's say it's not a very usual way of getting prema. It's a possible way of getting prema, but not recommended, not a common way of obtaining prema. Whereas the way which is described in these two verses is a common way, is a more or less standard way, but we cannot exclude some other ways. You know, sometimes we can see people. We should not be in a hurry, of judging people. If they really achieve something spectacular in their devotional career or devotional life, even though they may not go through these stages painstakingly from one stage into another, nevertheless, we should not look down at them and say, who you think you are? You're a new bhakta and you think you already have power. Maybe he has, who knows? Bhakti is completely independent. It's not within your purview. You cannot say it has to be like this. But usually for normal people or less than normal people like ourselves, it usually goes this way. This is how it progresses. So why it is so difficult in our case, and that's also the question which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur deals with in this book, Madhurya Kadambini, because why we have to go through all these stages, and sometimes it takes a long time. Actually, even to reach the stage of Nishtha is difficult. Strictly speaking, before Nishtha, we're all Kanishtas. Before Nishtha, we are on this Kanishta platform. And basically, if we take the metaphor which is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita of planting the seed of bhakti, Guru plants the seed of bhakti within our heart. All these stages, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, up until Nishtha, is the stages of planting the seed. You cannot really say that your seed is really planted until you reach Nishtha. Because you may throw the seed, but we know that the seed not necessarily will give some plant, some sprout. So up until the stage of Nishta, it's a very difficult period where the seed is put in not a very fertile soil of our heart, and it's struggling. The seed of prema is there. Guru Krishna Prasade, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we got the seed of devotional service in the form of Shraddha with some little taste attached to it. Like in the seed, when the seed is there, there is some, I'm using my scientific jargon, DNA is there, some genetic material is there which can give rise to the tree, but also there is some nourishment material is there, so that in the first initial stages when the seed is very fragile, in the seedling stage, there is some nourishment to this already to this little sprout which is there. In the same way, immediately from the outset, Guru and Krishna gives us some Shraddha, which is the seed, with some Ruchi, which is nourishment. And, everyone experiences this. Everyone who comes to Krishna consciousness, he experiences some Ruchi, some amazing taste. It's given to us with the faith, with Shraddha. It's attached to the faith. Which are given to us. But what we can see up until the stage of Nishta, the forces which work against Bhakti are very, very strong. We have very, very strong samskaras in our chitta, in our consciousness, the different tastes, basically material taste. And initially, the initial stages of development of Bhakti is this struggle between the little spiritual taste which is there. The seed of Bhakti sown within our heart is struggling to give rise to little sprout of Bhakti, using little taste which is there, which was already given, which is not our own taste. It's a reflected taste of a devotee whom we met, of Srila Prabhupada or one of his followers. But there is a lot of not very favorable circumstances or other factors which are working against it, which do not really allow the seed to give sprout so quickly and to give this this creeper of bhakti, to make it very strong from the very beginning. Of course, it depends. Some people have better situation in this regard, less strong samskaras. Some have even bhakti samskaras from previous life, which is very, very helpful. It's a much more fertile ground. But nevertheless, everyone has some contrary element, some element which is against the growth of bhakti within our heart. And we have to struggle with this. Anyway, and basically, why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes his book? What is the purpose of this book? The purpose of this book is to give us very clear understanding what is happening within our heart and how the opposite forces are creating some impediments for the seed of bhakti to sprout within our heart and to give rise to the creeper of bhakti, to bhakti lata beach. And therefore, he gives us, and he starts with the first chapter. As I said, I will not elaborately describe first chapter. It's a very important chapter, but you can read it. Indeed, it's a very important chapter. But what is the purpose of this chapter of first rain of shower, first shower of mercy, first shower of sweetness? The first shower of sweetness, the first chapter of Madhurya Kadambini, in this first shower, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains independent nature of bhakti, that it's completely self-willed. It's not dependent on any other, cause. It's causeless. It's absolutely causeless. But being causeless, which is very difficult for us to understand, for us, who are used to live in this world of cause and effect. We are on this side of the causal ocean. We are in the causal part of creation. And therefore, we always look for causes, trying to get the effects. For us, it's very difficult to understand the causeless nature of bhakti. But he is establishing that bhakti, being causeless, is completely spiritual and transcendental. And therefore, that's the only worthy goal which we can put, because everything else is useless. Everything else ultimately will not bring us satisfaction. Ultimately, it will be lost, because it's the part of this material creation. It's the part of cause and effect. What you will get by the causal process, only something which is of this world. Therefore, if you want to get something which is the prize, which is beyond this world, if you want to get rid of this world and come to the transcendental realm of existence, then you have to adopt the process which is causeless itself. This is one of the proofs which we have, that the process of bhakti is the only process, because this is the only process where the method and the goal, the means and the goal are the same. In any other, the process is material when the goal is different from the means. If we want to get moksha, and we can adopt different means to adopt moksha, but they're different from moksha itself. Some people, to get moksha, to get liberation, they even adopt bhakti. But when they get moksha, desired result, they give up bhakti. But in case of bhakti, like Prabhupada, when he was asked by a journalist, Swamiji, what you are doing? We're chanting Hare Krishna. Why you are chanting Hare Krishna? To chant more Hare Krishna. So there is no question of why, because it's the goal in itself. The process is transcendental, because the means and the goal are not different. Nobody asks, if you say, I want to be happy, nobody asks, why do you want to be happy? Because it's the goal in itself. So bhakti is like this. And to get this condition of consciousness, you can only get it by adopting bhakti itself. So bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, and that's the little Sanskrit aphorism or phrase from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 3rd chapter, which is basically described or being proven by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the 1st chapter of Madhurya Kadambini, that the only goal worthy of our endeavors is bhakti, because it's completely independent. It doesn't have any material tinge in it. It helps to achieve other goals, but it doesn't require any other help. Other processes will not be able to help us to perform bhakti. sometimes people think that you need psychology to practice bhakti. You need the help of psychology. You need the help of, I don't know, jnana or karma, or you have to go to astrologer, and astrologer have to give you some navagraha mantra, or should make some special ritual, and then you will be able to achieve the goal of bhakti. No. No, bhakti is not coming like this. Yes, all other means, they may be appropriate for appropriate material goals, but ultimately bhakti does not depend on this. Bhakti only depends on bhakti. Bhakti only comes from bhakti. And the main point which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur proves in the first chapter of Madhurya Kadambini is that Yadrichaya Matkathadu Nirvinna Sarva Karmasu. He is explaining this verse that Yadrichaya, by some good fortune. How bhakti comes? By good fortune. What is this good fortune? What is this Yadrichaya? What is this Ati Bhagyena, this unprecedented fortune, which prize which you get by getting the seed of bhakti? And ultimately he said the bhakti is coming from the bhakti in the heart of a devotee. That's the only source of bhakti. And there is no other source of bhakti. Bhakti, you can get bhakti only from the heart of a devotee, and you can nourish your own bhakti only by being in touch with the heart of a devotee. You know, all these disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they get bhakti from his heart, his complete dedication and endeavor. His bhakti, which was so visible and so strong, created bhakti in their hearts, and they're spreading them around. And if we want to nourish our bhakti, we have to be in touch with their hearts. We have to continue to be in touch with the heart of Srila Prabhupada in the form of reading of his books, and in the form of serving his mission, his society, spreading his books, distributing his books, or serving his followers, the devotees, and chanting the holy name, which is also coming from the heart of Lord Chaitanya ultimately. Lord Chaitanya took this mantra from his own heart, impregnated it with prema, and invested this holy name in the hearts of his followers. And in this way, it was going on from heart to heart, heart to heart. And this is what Parampara system is all about. So he's stressing this point, and this point is very crucial because many deviations in our society, they are somehow or other connected with misunderstanding of this point. Like the famous Ritvik philosophy says that you don't really need the living guru, you can develop spiritually without being in touch or serving a devotee. No, but this doesn't work. Yes, you can definitely serve Srila Prabhupada's mission and read Srila Prabhupada's books. Nevertheless, you shouldn't exclude the living process of bhakti, or surrendering process of bhakti, which is very important, by substituting it by some mechanical means, which what this Ritvik philosophy is all about. And if we take many deviations, we can see at the root of these deviations not understanding where the bhakti is coming from. The bhakti is coming only from the heart of a devotee, even not from Krishna. In this chapter, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that Krishna doesn't give you bhakti. In rare cases he may, like in case of Putana, But you really have to be Putana to get bhakti from Krishna. You have to achieve something. Uh, I always have to push the button because somebody is knocking at the door, and I don't know why I'm given this right. Something is wrong with it. But anyway, I'll continue doing it. So that's the first chapter, which we have to understand that bhakti is coming from the heart of a devotee, and bhakti is a transcendental process. And I want to read, since I'm not explaining in details this first chapter, but nevertheless we have to establish this foundation. I want to read the very last sentence of this first chapter of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Tadevam Bhagavata Iva Svarupa Bhutaya Mahashakte. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that in this way, Tadevam Bhagavata Iva Svarupa Bhutaya Mahashakti. To a certain extent, we have described the great manifestation of Krishna's Svarupa Shakti, Mahashakti. Because naturally you cannot claim that you cannot describe Mahashakti of Krishna, Svarupa Shakti, completely, fully. So Bhagavata Eva a little bit, Svarupa Bhutaya Mahashakti. So this Mahashakti, Bhakti is Mahashakti, Svarupa Shakti of the Lord Himself, of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead Himself. And it has 6 characteristics, which are or which were described in this first chapter of Madhurya Kadambini. Sarva Vyapakatvam. The first characteristic of Bhakti, of this Mahashakti of the Supreme Lord, is that it's all pervading. Sarva Vyapaka. Sarva Vyapakatvam. It's basically means that it's available everywhere, and it pervades all the phenomena of this world. If we take any religion, there is some little element of bhakti or mahashakti of the Lord is there. Otherwise, the religion would not be working. Even Buddhism. The Buddhists, they officially don't accept God, but nevertheless, they worship Buddha, they have all the rituals, they have all the pujas, and they chant mantras. This is all bhakti. So the first we have to understand how bhakti manifests and how it pervades everything. It's there. Even communism. The communism, there was some bhakti in the hearts of the founding fathers of this stupid system. Even though they denied the existence of the Lord, still there was some sort of a little drop of Mahashakti of the Lord. And basically it means Sarva Vyapakatvam means that it's available. It's basically available. If you want to extract it, you don't have to come to India. It's available. It's available all over the place. But of course, somewhere it's more available, somewhere it's less available. But still, it's everywhere. It's spread, and therefore, when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, he actually showed that actually bhakti is already within your heart. That was the slogan of Srila Prabhupada. The love is dormant within your heart. You just have to understand this. And sometimes Prabhupada would say very simple things, but these simple things would open or reveal this bhakti which is there. So the first thing is that it's all pervading, sarva vyapakatvam. The second quality or characteristics of bhakti being described in this first chapter, which we're briefly going through, is sarva vashikaritvam. Sarva vashikaritvam means it's all controlling. It's controlling everything. It's basically it's all, how to say this, it's conquering everything. Sarva vashikaritvam. It actually it conquers the heart of a devotee when he feels bhakti. He feels the attraction of the Lord, and he becomes completely surrendered. The Lord conquers over him. But when the Lord sees the devotion within the heart of a devotee, he becomes conquered by his devotee. So, sarva vashikaritvam means that when you have bhakti, if you love somebody, and if you sincerely love somebody, this person whom you love, when he sees your sincerity of love, he will surrender to you. He has no choice because this is the power of bhakti. As much as you have this pure bhakti, pure love is very powerful, and therefore it subjugates. Basically, sarva vashikaritvam, it's all subjugating. It can subjugate everyone's heart. It can subjugate. So that's the nature of bhakti, amazing nature of bhakti. We can see, this when Lord Chaitanya came to the South India, and he saw this Brahmana who is crying by looking at the picture in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. And Lord Chaitanya asked, why you're crying? He said, because I see my Lord and he is doing this menial service to his devotee, and I start crying. And Lord Chaitanya says, you are the great authority of Bhagavad Gita. You understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita, because the essence of Bhagavad Gita is to give this sense that bhakti is the highest goal, because it can subjugate the Lord. It can even conquer over the Lord. The Lord is becoming surrendered to his devotee. This is how great is bhakti. Bhakti reva bhuyasi. There is nothing better than bhakti, according to Mantra Shruti, Mantra Upanishad. Because of this point. So that's the thing. And when we read Mahabharata, what Krishna was doing for his devotees, and even in Srimad Bhagavatam, of course. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said in the 5th canto, Shukadev Goswami says that to Maharaja Pariksit, the Lord has become the messenger of your grandfathers. He has become the menial servant of your grandfathers. He became the friend and the well-wisher and protector, and he was doing everything to your grandfathers. Why? Because this is the power of bhakti. And the third point of bhakti, the third point of quality of bhakti, sarva sanjivikatvam. Sarva sanjivikatvam means it's all enlivening. It's as in the beginning we said, the dry and basically dead piece of matter, which has become our heart, our consciousness have become dead. When it's being touched by bhakti, we become enlivened. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that, if you have faith, you have enthusiasm. You become enthused. It's also said in Yoga Sutra of Patanjali Muni. Patanjali Muni says that Shraddha, and then Virya, and then Smriti, and then Samadhi, and then Pragya. He says that when little Shraddha, which is the initial stage of bhakti comes, then you get a lot of enthusiasm, you get a lot of power. We can see devotees, they're doing sometimes amazing things when they have bhakti, because they're empowered. There is this upsurge of energy. They become enlivened. I know people, I knew very old devotees, something like 85 years old, who would start dancing in the kirtan. And Jagannath Das Babaji, he was 144 years old when he died. So he could hardly move. His servant Bihari would carry him in the basket. He became very small because of this osteoporosis. When you become old, your body shrinks because your bones shrink. But when the kirtan would start, he would jump from this basket and started dancing. Why? Sarva Sanjivikatvam, because this is the quality of the bhakti. When you're really in touch with bhakti, if you don't have enthusiasm, something is wrong with you. You somehow or other, your bhakti is covered over. But when you have even little faith, you become very enthusiastic, you become enlivened, and you want to share it with others. You have a lot of energy. You don't need too much sleep or too much eat. Sarvatkarsha. Sarvatkarsha means it's all attractive. Utkarsha, super excellent quality. It's very, very attractive. And Paramasvatantriya. It means absolutely independent. It doesn't depend on anything. It can come to anyone immediately without asking, to a neophyte devotee. It can give very amazing experience. To very old and senior devotee, it may not give anything. And you cannot say, I am GBC, I'm entitled to get bhakti. No. Bhakti doesn't care whether you're GBC or ABC or whatever. All your claims are useless. You're not entitled to bhakti. Bhakti is paramasvatantriyam, completely independent. It's not acting according to the human justice. It's self-willed. It can come to anyone. And you cannot even ask, why did it come to him and why did not come to me? You can only hope that at one point it will come. And swaprakashatvam. Swaprakashatvam basically means that it's self-manifesting, like the Lord. Like the Lord, he can manifest anywhere, anytime. In the same way, bhakti may manifest completely independently. There is no material logic behind the workings of the bhakti. And this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has proven, or as he himself said, little bit described. Kinchit utankitam. Kinchit, very little bit he touched upon these qualities of the Lord, or of the bhakti, of the energy of the Lord, main energy of the Lord. Why he starts this book from this subject matter? Why he doesn't go immediately to the first stage of spiritual development, which is Shraddha? There is very important reason for this, because Shraddha means Shraddha in this particular qualities of bhakti. So he first establishes what bhakti really is. What are the super excellent qualities of bhakti, features of bhakti? And by establishing this, he prepares the ground for Shraddha. Because if we start Shraddha, Shraddha in what? Shraddha in bhakti. Because the special quality of Shraddha, of faith, is that it has to be one-pointed. which is very difficult to achieve because our intelligence tends to be many-branched. We tend to have many different goals just in case we need it. So therefore, he first wants to focus our consciousness upon this goal and say that this is the real goal of your endeavors. Don't be distracted to anything else. Don't be so foolish. You know, he quotes Srimad Bhagavatam. He says that somebody in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that somebody who is not performing bhakti, he's not even human. He's less than human. He cannot be called human. So stupid he is. You know, so we are all very intelligent. That's good news. but but we're not very intelligent because sometimes we look around and sometimes we think that maybe there is something else. Maybe we should do something else. Maybe you know, this sounds good, but you know, who knows? Maybe there is something higher. So what he's doing by this first chapter, he is really focusing our consciousness and really tuning up our face. Because again, the face is only the face, and this we will start soon. This is the new topic. What is the face? The face, when it is said Shraddha, it means one-pointed face. If the face is not one-pointed, it's not really the Shraddha from which this staircase to the spiritual world starts. You're not yet on the first stage or on the first step of this staircase. You can only climb to this first step of the staircase, which will bring you to the spiritual world, if you become a kantin, if you become one-pointed in your endeavors, if you understand that everything else, it may be subsidiary. It's not that we neglect anything else, but there is only one goal, and we try to do everything else so that it would facilitate us to reach this goal, and not to be distracted to achieve the other things as a separate goal. So that's the point which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, and therefore he so painstakingly proved the completely spiritual and perfect nature of bhakti on the stage of sadhana and on the stage of sadhya, on the stage of achievement, success, and on the stage of practice. In all the stages, the bhakti has the same nature, and therefore from the very beginning we should try to develop a very pure attitude towards our bhakti, towards the practice of bhakti. And the price is very high. And if we get this very high price, we will not be cheated. So I guess we should start with the I will say just a few words more about the nature of the process or what's going on. What is the Rajsundar Prabhu, are you online? Should I speak the whole allocated time or should I leave some time for questions? Nobody answers. Okay. So, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's your servant Ekalavidas.
Yes, Ekalavidas. Yes.
Maharaj, often we have time for questions. Devotees like to have some interaction. I'm sure devotees would be happy to get your deep realizations and have some interaction with you. do some questions, answers, discussion.
Okay, Kalavya Prabhu, no problem. I can finish at any time. Basically, I mean, I gave the introduction and described the first chapter without touching the details of it. What I want to say more, little bit, I probably not come to the subject matter of Shraddha today. We'll keep it for tomorrow. But I will say something general about the process of bhakti. What is this climbing from one step of this ladder of bhakti to another step? What is happening? In each and every stage of spiritual development, this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur will explain in the 8th chapter of Madhurya Kadambini, which we will never be able to reach in this seminar, and I doubt that we will be able to reach it in this life, but maybe somebody who is lucky will be able to do it. But in the 8th, and therefore it's worth to say something which he says there in the beginning. He says that what is bhakti? Bhakti, we have our ego, which consists of two elements, ahanta and mamata, I and mine. We all know the concept of I and the concept of mine. This belongs to me. And in the material life, when we are engaged in material life, this ahanta and mamata is completely material, 100%. All our conceptions or all our understanding of who we are completely based on a bodily conception of life. I am this body, I am this piece of flesh, I belong to this country, I'm a member of this family, I have such a nationality, this and that. And mamata is also in terms of matter. This is my achievements, this is my diplomas, this is my education, this is my family, this is my wealth, this is my bank balance, this is my dog. This is all part of mine. This is all part of my identity in the material world. And we all have this material identity. And this is why Arjuna was so horrified when he saw the sum total of his material identity, this collective ego, all his relatives standing in front of him, and he understood that he's supposed to kill them, which was tantamount of committing suicide, and therefore he was so afraid. Anyway, so in the beginning, we have this completely material identity. Vishwanath Chakravarti, and the path of karma is more or less reinforces this material identity. As long as we perform karma, whether it's pious karma according to Vedas or impious sinful activities according to modern quote-unquote culture, vikarma or ugra karma, we are more or less reinforcing our material identity. And even pious activities, they just create or reinforce our pious identity. We have this identity, I am a very religious person, and therefore I do these religious rituals, but it's all material. Religion is a part of this material world. It's not transcendental per se. It's actually the means. Normally when we say religion, it basically means to live happily in this world. This is how usually people take religion. Dharma. By religion we mean dharma. So when you go to the path of jnana, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this is the path of complete destruction of your identity, ahanta and mamata. On the path of Gyan, you're supposed to destroy this identity altogether. No more I and mine, not in any way or shape. You become nothing. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada called this as spiritual suicide. You try to become nothing. Basically, that's what Jnana is. You may call this nothing as Brahman, you may call this nothing as anything else, but it's nothing. No I, no I-ness whatsoever. But on the path of Bhakti, the path of Bhakti is facilitating to form the spiritual identity, re-establishing or restoring our spiritual identity. Our I and mine become spiritual. I am the servant of the Lord, and the Lord is mine. In the material consciousness, I am this matter, and whatever part of the matter belongs to me is mine. I am this body, and the matter belongs to me. This is mine. In a spiritual consciousness, I am the servant of the Lord, and the Lord is mine. This is how this is the transformation which is supposed to take place when we are practicing bhakti. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that what is the difference between these stages of spiritual development from Shraddha to Prema? He says basically, and this is the different stages of spiritualization of our ego, or forming of our spiritual ego, and simultaneously destruction of our material ego. On the path of bhakti, our material identity is gradually being destroyed, and on the at the same time, our spiritual identity is being formed. Problem. And he says that this process starts from the very beginning, when we get Shraddha, little seed or little atom of prema, as we said, little particle of transcendental energy of the Lord, or coming in touch with this transcendental energy of the Lord in the heart of a pure devotee or a devotee. So the little bit spiritualization, little smell, gandha, he says, little smell of spiritual I and mine appears. We still consider ourselves as a body, but little smell is there. Maybe I'm not this body, maybe I have spirit soul. There is little doubt is there. And gradually from sadhu sangha to bhajana kriya, to anartha nivriti, to nishta, to ruchi, to asakti, to bhava, and to prema, we will see that the spiritual identity will manifest more and more and more. We will experience the more tight connection with the Lord. Lord is mine. We will experience the greater sense of understanding that I'm not this body, and death is actually not so difficult. It's just a change of the body. And the parallel process is the destruction of material identity. Very interestingly, it's not exactly the same process. It's two different processes. If we analyze how Vishwanath Chakravarti describes this, we can see that from one side, our spiritual ego grows and becoming more and more mature. And from the other side, our material identity is being dissolved, but they're not 100% parallel. Like on the stage of Nishta, we still have very strong material identity, because there is not much spiritual experience on the stage of Nishta. It's our experience is mostly still material. We still identify with the body, even though we may not be so much identifying with the mind, with the matter that was destroyed before, but we still don't have too much or too strong or too pronounced, profound spiritual experience. But at the same time, the spiritual ego is somewhat formed already on the stage of Nishta. So it's an interesting process. We still have complete material identity on the stage of Nishta, but at the same time, already some little spiritual identity is pronounced, and then it goes on like this. So when we're describing all these stages, we have to understand what's going on. This is the change of our ego. And this is a necessarily gradual process, because we cannot really change our ego abruptly. So I guess I stop here. I don't know if we didn't reach Ruchi yet, but we still have 2 more sessions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
This is your servant, Pran Govinda Das from Alachua.
Oh, Pran Govinda ji, Hare Krishna. Very happy to hear your voice.
Please accept my obeisance.
It must be very early in Alachua.
Yes, we start at 2:30 first class.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, is it okay if I ask you a question?
Yeah, I'm happy.
I'm trying to, I love the elaborate explanation you have, but I'm trying to see another angle that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7, text 99, that Mahaprabhu did not deliver the Navadvip citizen, but what he did in South India. And he, Prabhupada gave a nice purport that Katakan Rahi Prabhu Tarialangia Vidai Korila Tare Sakti Sancharita. That when a conditioned soul comes in contact with sadhu, he gets these 2 potency, pleasure potency and cognizant potency.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, previous chapter in 6.160, Prabhupada said, without these 2 potency, nobody can escape from the material covering and attain love of God.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like this 2 potency is the primary focus of the whole Bhakti tradition. This is one way to look at it. I want you to correct me.
No,
you are. I was thinking like also. Sorry.
No. You continue. Yeah.
In Bhagavad Gita, is it okay, Maharaj?
Yeah. Please continue.
Oh. Okay. And also in Bhagavad Gita, I noticed that 11.33, just to summarize, that it looks like Krishna has the result. What he is seeking is our endeavor, what he was looking from Arjuna. Because he already revealed them, he already put them into depth. So I'm trying to put together a few other things, like Prabhupada said that Jatayu's achievement of goal was not a materially estimation of success. So instead, if we understand that Krishna wants us more than the result, this is what I understand, then we will strive diligently to offer him the result to express our devotion, which we call sadhana, as you mentioned. And even if the result does not work out, still our sadhana itself will please him. he will reciprocate by revealing his all attractiveness and thereby increasing our attraction for him. The resulting divine absorption will provide us security, satisfaction in both failure and success. In a example of Jatayu versus Arjuna, both are successful. I want your comment on it, or also to understand that it's okay to think like this, or actually we should focus on step by step and examine my own consciousness where I am.
And see, I don't see any contradiction between these 2 points of view. We have to examine where we are, but at the same time, irrespectively of where we are, we have to endeavor. And that's the whole point of the book, because the main point of the book and these 2 verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is to say that even though Bhakti is causeless, still you can do something to expedite or to attract this causeless mercy. It will still be causeless. The causeless nature of Bhakti will not change, but nevertheless, you have to endeavor yourself, and you have to get this. It will come on its own accord, but why there is this, why both Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami says that this is the normal or usual way of getting bhakti, because this is like more or less standard procedure, which doesn't give you guarantee, but explains what you're supposed to do to maximize your chances to get bhakti. So yes, we're doing this, and from the very beginning we have to understand this self-manifested nature of bhakti, and therefore our endeavors will also be pure. We will not be causal in our endeavors from the very beginning. And as you said, if your endeavors from the very beginning are not causal, you're just doing it just for the pleasure of the Lord. Not because you expect something in exchange, not because even you want bhakti. You're just doing it because you want the Lord to be pleased. If you understand this is the nature of bhakti, from the very beginning you will have the proper approach to sadhana. And this proper approach to sadhana will make your progress in bhakti very quick. So we have to endeavor, and we have to be happy. It's interesting. Thank you for saying this. I will say a few more things about the nature of Shraddha. You know, when we reach the level of bhava, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that on the level of bhava, chitta mastaminya, our heart becomes completely softened. And Jiva Goswami, of course, explains that what is this softening of the heart? Ruchi bis. It's softened in the heart by many different ruchis, by many different tastes. Srila Jiva Goswami explains what is these tastes which are there on the level of bhakti. And he says it's basically 3 desires which the person on the level of bhakti develops, or on the level of bhava develops. The desire for the happiness of the Lord, desire to understand what Lord wants from you and to be close to the Lord, and experience of the happiness of the Lord by your endeavors. So that's the fully developed stage of bhakti, when these 3 desires become very prominent and there is no other desires. I only want Lord's happiness. This is what I want. I only want to do something which will be pleasing to the Lord. And I only want to experience, to see his happiness. so like it's not it's something which we can relate to, like if we love somebody, let's say it's our spiritual master, and we really sincerely love him. What does it mean? It means that we want him to be happy. We want to understand which our what we do, what we should do to make him happy, what brings him happiness, and we want to see he's smiling, he's happy. We really want to see that he's happy with us, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm so pleased with what you're doing." So why I'm saying this? Because in Shraddha, these desires are already there in a very minute form. When we develop faith, faith means real faith, Shraddha, not samadhic faith, not conventional faith. But the real faith means that we already know or we understand that from the very beginning, I have to endeavor to make Lord happy. I have to try to figure out what makes him happy. And I have little experience that I'm doing something and he becomes happy and I feel happiness myself. This is exactly what you said. So the same desires in the very minute forms are there from the very beginning of devotional service. If the seed of devotional service is proper, if the seed is not proper, if I still want or hanker to achieve something from bhakti, my own satisfaction, my fame, name, glory, this and that, then I'm not even on the first stage of bhakti. So I don't see any contradiction. You have to understand very clearly what's going on every stage of spiritual development to make sure that you're doing something properly. And at the same time, you also, be happy with doing what you can do on this stage. You cannot jump over your head. Just do whatever you can and be happy with this and try to do it as purely as possible, applying all your heart with it, and Krishna will surely notice it. So I don't know if I understood you properly, but this is what I kind of heard in your question. I don't know if I replied to it, but there is no contradiction in my opinion.
I appreciate your beautiful explanation. You have a very good understanding. I really, really appreciate. I hope I take advantage of your mercy. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. On behalf of ISKCON Sannyasa Ministry, we would like to thank you for your time and giving us the insight. We're looking forward for your association more tomorrow. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Swami Maharaj ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Spasibo, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.